All right. So today's poll question, guys, was basically what is the challenge, or what are the challenges or fears that are holding people back from doing the protocol? And so the poll question was pretty well received, and based at about 5 o'clock, I got these responses. So I'm going to go ahead and just respond to these because this is being recorded and people will be able to see my responses. But if you guys have questions too, I'll get to those as soon as I finish with these. Gives more people time to get on. So the number one issue was I'm afraid of flare-ups from gadolinium or mercury. And this is a very real phenomenon with the detox symptoms. They're a little different for gadolinium and mercury for sure. There are probably others like people who've been fluxed or benzo withdrawal type of issues, but the issue with gadolinium is that it has a way of causing like brain zaps and electrical sensations, severe bone pain, and all kinds of just bizarre symptoms that if somebody is detoxing this and liberating the gadolinium at higher levels, we have to accommodate for that additional load that the body's dealing with. So what we use for that is a couple of natural anti-inflammatories like ginger root tea or turmeric tea. And this is going to help to mitigate some of that, but you're also going to want to take more of the zeolite than the normal dose. So a full tablespoon would be a good idea. We know that zeolite is very capable of binding. In fact, it's the strongest binder and chelator of zeolite. So, I mean, of gadolinium. So the binders are going to be, especially the zeolite is going to be doubled, at least doubled. But the other thing about gadolinium is that it's a calcium channel blocker, and that can screw up the rest of the metabolic system. So we need to incorporate more of the vitamin D3 K2, and I use a brand that looks like this, if you can see it on the camera. So I recommend this one that is also got the MCT oil, but it is it's helpful for allowing the body to absorb calcium better when we're on the program. And if you recall, we use a beverage that's mixed called CalMag, and the CalMag is a calcium gluconate and magnesium carbonate that is mixed with apple cider vinegar to lower the pH of the calcium and to make it more bioavailable. And it's ideally for the extended periods of time in sauna to help with muscle cramping, twitching, and spasming. However, with gadolinium, you're going to see that the gadolinium stores in the bone. So the calcium becoming more bioavailable through the two mechanisms I've just described is going to help displace gadolinium from the bones and help to get that out faster. So those are the ways that we deal with the gadolinium problem. Now, mercury, on the other hand, has other issues as far as the way it is detoxed. It has a lot of neurological, actions. And so people really do have a problem with mercury. But the good news is that the mercury itself is more predisposed to coming out through the skin, through sweat. So there's plenty of studies that have shown that sweat is a primary route of mercury elimination. So it's the better way to detox mercury. And we just go low and slow with mercury. And we also incorporate other binders. So now the other thing too is that flare-ups can be caused by other things. So taking the binders is really key to helping to mitigate that. The body is going through a heightened state or an elevated state of liberating toxins during the rebound lipolysis state. So the binders are going to be needed because you're only doing sauna for about 75 total minutes. So the binders are going to help pick up what's in the GI tract and what comes back through the GI tract. And what I mean by that is that we've got the bile acids coming from the liver and the gallbladder. So the bile acids are cycling these toxins through the GI tract, which allows the binders to pick those up. So the other thing too with the villi and the small intestine is the fact that the blood flowing through there is also filtered kind of like chelation through the zeolite. So that's the mercury and gadolinium. And did I hear a question forming out there? I thought I heard an interruption. Okay, so the next one that I'm going to talk about is I can't afford a sauna. Yeah, there's a real problem, real challenge, especially with people who have extended or expended, if you will, all of their resources trying to find solutions to whatever their condition is. So the reality is that the sauna was probably the last thing they or you have actually looked into as far as a modality to help heal. And really, the sauna is actually the most important tool for health. And I'm a living testament to that. I sauna daily for 30 minutes. So it's an absolute necessity to have a sauna if you can. Now, I can show you how to build your own sauna, or at least I can help you find how to build your own sauna for less than $300. And although it's a near infrared sauna, it uses heat lamps. And those heat lamps can produce sebaceous sweat because they're putting off more of a convection heat. But it's Matt Justice who has I think it's $15 course on how to source the proper materials that you'll need and how to build the thing. And he's demonstrated to me that it is absolutely a perfect sauna for doing our program. The other ways that you can get a sauna would be through the portable manufacturers like Therasage or Relax. And there's also the Sunstream Mini, which is the smallest cabin style sauna you can buy. And it's actually a sauna that is the lowest cost. So the footprint, by the way, is about 32 and a half by 35 inches. So it's not even 3 foot square. Comes up to my forehead, which is about 67 inches. And the price of that is $25.95 at the moment. And there's probably about $200 in shipping, but that's the lowest cost sauna that is actually a cabin style. The portables like Therasage and Relax have, the tent style, and your head sticks out of them, which is fine because you still get a detox of your brain. But the sauna, the lowest cost sauna that you can really get is one that you build yourself for less than $300. So if you're interested in that, I'll show you how to reach out to Matt Justice to get the course. And for $15, it's worth just seeing how you can build your own sauna that way. So the third top question that I got was, I'm afraid of niacin as far as maybe the flush or liver damage. Now, the form of niacin that we need to use on this protocol is the natural form, the pure form. It's nicotinic acid, and it does not have any deleterious health effects like people have been told by like the medical world who actually use a pharmaceutical grade version of niacin, which tends to be either slow released or sustained released or extended released. But those are actually, especially the slow release, are more hepatotoxic, so they will cause liver damage if used in high doses for long periods of time. So the form of niacin that we use is absolutely safe for most people. There's probably 1% of the population in the world who has a niacin allergy, but for the most part, the niacin is something that the body needs, and it's actually been shown by Dr. Abram Hoffer, who is or was a psychiatrist. He's now passed away, but Dr. Abram Hoffer was actually curing schizophrenia. He figured out it was end stage pellagra. And so he was dosing people at 20 to 60,000 milligrams per day of niacin in order to cure schizophrenia. So at those doses, I mean, that's 10 times, tens of times more than what we use on the protocol. We get up to maybe 3,100 milligrams. Some people will get up to maybe 5,800 because it is based on weight. But for the most part, a doctor who prescribes niacin for cholesterol management, they'll get you to 6,000. So just know that we're dealing with doses that are really reasonable. Now, the flush is something that is caused by the prostaglandin hormones. Now, the flush causes the vasodilation, or I should say the prostaglandins cause vasodilation of the capillaries. So normally they're really constricted and they're only letting so much blood to flow through. But once you take niacin, if your body still has the prostaglandin hormones, and I'll get to that in a minute, but once you take the niacin, the prostaglandins that are in the cells of the capillaries, the capillary walls, release and they relax the capillary walls, and they allow a lot more red blood cells to flow through. And at this point, you get that redness in your upper body because it's at the skin layers, and it tends to occur mostly in the upper body. So as you're doing our protocol, you're going to be using niacin on a chronic basis where you're taking it daily and increasing the dose daily in order to overcome the body's tolerance. And what happens is the body gets depleted of these prostaglandins. And so the flush will wane or completely disappear after about maybe 7 to 10 days. So the flush may get more intense in the very beginning, but it goes away. And for the most part, you don't even remember you took the niacin because you don't feel it. And this is another important factoid, is the fact that the flush and the rebound lipolysis that is actually what's liberating the toxins are so different from each other. The only thing they have in common is niacin. So once the flush goes away completely, it does not have any effect on rebound lipolysis. So the protocol doesn't care about the flush. Now, the fact that some people may have histamine intolerance or something like that is a concern because of the fact that there's a histamine response by the immune system due to the vasodilation. The body wants to know, is there an infection? What's causing this increased blood flow? So it sends out some histamines. But those too will get depleted over a very short period of time. And in fact, the reason for vitamin C is mostly because it's a histamine destroyer, and it will actually help to knock out those histamines and allow you to do the protocol. So even people with MCAS or the mast cell activation syndrome are able to do the program. So those were the top three, and I think they're very good questions. I do have a couple more I can go through, but I'll go ahead and take a break and let somebody in the audience, if they have questions, to go ahead and either unmute or raise your hand or what have you, and let's hear what your questions are.
I have a question. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
When you're doing the sauna just on a maintenance basis, not the protocol, do you still use niacin?
That's a really good question. There is a benefit to being in the sauna while doing or having a flush. There is a slightly better detox than if you were just to sit in the sauna alone. I don't typically take niacin when I'm doing my daily sauna, but my body at this point is so detoxed because of how many times I've done the program as well as how often I sauna. So I don't really feel like I need to take niacin just to improve the detoxing. But for some people, it's a good thing to do, but if you've done the protocol, for example, you need to come off the niacin for at least a week before you start that. Excuse me. You need to make sure that the niacin tolerance has reset back to 0 if you want to be able to flush.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question. Do we have any other questions, or should I go ahead and continue with the ones that I can just discuss? Okay, I'll go ahead and continue with these then. So after the niacin flush, there was some questions about the program working for the condition that they may have. So let's just talk about the conditions that people may be experiencing that they don't know if something like this is going to be effective. And I can talk about chronic fatigue syndrome. I can talk about asthma, multiple sclerosis. There's many different diseases or conditions that are listed as no known etiology. That means they don't know what causes them. But what we do find is that there is a commonality in their environmental toxicants. So if I go ahead and click through, I'm going to play show a couple of slides here. Environmental toxicants are basically from industry and from commercial use. So these are the heavy metals and the man-made chemicals, and persistent organic pollutants, which are like your herbicides and pesticides that are designed to not break down in the environment. So they're not going to break down in your liver. In fact, our bodies have never, adapted to being able to detox most of these man-made chemicals that are what are called lipophilic or fat attracted and fat soluble. But we can break down in our livers some of the more water soluble type of toxins or toxicants, actually. So in fact, if you look up the definition of toxin, what you'll find is it's an antigenic poison or venom of plant or animal origin that in low concentrations in the body can cause disease, right? So that's no mention of heavy metals or man-made chemicals. And that's the term toxicants. But when toxicants enter the body, they become xenobiotics or substances foreign to the body. So those substances are less likely to be broken down by the livers because they're fat attracted or fat soluble, lipophilic, and therefore they're going to wind up seeking fat and storing in the fat. Now, some people would argue that that's a mechanism by the body to protect the organs by sequestering these lipophilic xenobiotics into fat. And there's probably some truth to that, but they're fat soluble. I mean, they're fat attracted. They are lipid and lipophilic. So they're going to seek out fat. But the important thing to understand, though, is that once they get into the fat, they have a very deleterious effect on mitochondria. Now, what are mitochondria? Well, mitochondria are essentially the engine or powerhouse of the cells. And every cell has mitochondria, and they basically produce energy for the body's functions. The energy we're talking about is ATP, or adenosine triphosphate energy. And what happens is the mitochondria get dysfunctional when they're toxic. And in fact, here's a couple of other slides to show you. So mitochondrial dysfunction as a hallmark of environmental injury or environmental toxicants. Here's a review of several different research papers regarding environmental chemical exposures and mitochondrial dysfunction. But here we get to the root of things. So mitochondrial dysfunction is the root cause of many diseases. And we've known this for decades as far as our work goes, but this was published in 2017. So it's as if they're just kind of coming out with the fact that mitochondrial dysfunction, you've probably been hearing that actually more and more, that this is the cause of conditions. And we can say pretty much if it's a non-communicable or non-genetic disease, it's probably got environmental toxicants as the basis or the root cause. Here's an example: chronic fatigue syndrome and mitochondrial dysfunction. So we can see that there's ties to the problem with toxicants. Here's mitochondrial disease and toxins. They call them toxins, but they're toxicants. So let's talk about that. There's autism, ALS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and diabetes. And I've already mentioned, chronic fatigue, and there's all kinds, like asthma, I don't think was in that list, but there's all kinds of conditions that are actually tied to environmental toxicants that get into the body. And what we know is that these toxicants or xenobiotics start to disrupt the enzymes and proteins that are needed by the mitochondria to produce the energy. They also the xenobiotics create oxidative stress, and that causes a cascade of damage. But the reality is that when the toxins are stored there in the fat, it causes the fat to become stagnant, which means it's not able to basically get burned, so that the fat becomes stubborn fat. And this is why we see so many people who can't lose that stubborn weight, but they will do much better with weight control after they've done our program. So we can't call it weight loss, but I can tell you right now, weight control is actually what you're looking for. So that's an important thing to know. And I think that was the last slide. Let's just double check that. So yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and end this slide deck so that we can see each other now. Oops, end show, there we go. All right, and stop share. So again, thank you guys for joining me. And do you have any of your questions? Because I can certainly bring up the list of about 15 questions I was emailed. So I give the floor to you. Anybody have a question? Just unmute.
I have this is George. I have a question off that topic, but and it was on the chi machine that you had a couple of months ago and you were going into. And I ordered one today, and I was wondering, will the chi machine help move lymph around?
That's actually one of the main things that it does. Yes. The chi machine will help move the lymph system, as well as it gets the blood flowing too. And yeah, when you sit or when you use it for a while, you will feel the tingle. It's really quite amazing. I don't know if Ken has anything he wants to chime in about that, but Ken's very knowledgeable with the Chi machine himself.
Yeah, I've been using the Chi machine myself personally. The first one we bought was over 30 years ago. And the reason why they called it a Chi was just Chi machine. That nickname is just because of the flow, the release that you feel flush over your body when the machine stops. You don't notice it so much while you're sitting still. I mean, while you're wiggling on it, but as soon as it stops, you just get this rush from head to toe or toe to head, depending upon your body. And it's really quite an amazing feeling. But I actually wear an Apple Watch, and in terms of the exercise on it, if I use it and don't turn on the Apple Watch will automatically tell me, "Oh, are you doing an elliptical training?" And because it very much simulates working on an elliptical, except you're not doing any of the work. The machine's doing all of the work for you.
Interesting.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. I'll see what happens when I get it.
Like to hear back from you on that one too.
Okay.
All right. Does anybody else have a question? I can just go ahead and go through the ones that I've been emailed. So actually, this one from Deidre is asking, can you have a Zoom where you focus on chemical sensitivities and fragrance allergies? I can actually incorporate that into this now, because really MCS is something that, as far as the best analogy can be, it's as if your body is a vacuum cleaner with a dustbin, and once the dustbin is full, it no longer functions correctly like a vacuum would not. So the detox program actually is like if you were to empty the dustbin and start over again, your body's more able to handle being around chemicals and fragrances. MCS is very real. And I've worked with a lot of people who've had MCS. My father certainly has been working with them throughout the decades. It used to be, though, that we would put somebody with MCS through the program, which would be the original Hubbard method. That meant 4.5 to 5 hours a day, but he would put them on for 75 straight days and finally get them out of the mode where they were, having any kind of triggers with sensitivities to fragrances. But today we would not do a 75-day program. We would have you do 30 days. And that's at 2 hours a day, of course. So we've reduced that time commitment too. But it would be 30 days with a break in between, at least 2 weeks, so that your body can reset the niacin, as well as you start to return to homeostasis. Because think about it, you're going through a heightened state of that fight or flight mode, the sympathetic mode. So you're releasing toxins at 3 times normal levels during the rebound lipolysis, as well as you're doing heat stress from sauna, and you're also doing exercise and things like that. So during the 2 weeks after you finish a 30-day program, your body returns to homeostasis, and you really start to feel the wins or the gains that you would have had, through that first program. But people with MCS, just like people with gadolinium toxicity, for example, should plan to do the protocol probably 4 times. Even if you only have, like 1 gadolinium injection from an MRI, plan to do the protocol 4 times. It's the best way, because we've always shown the body burden reductions are about 1/3. So that helps to empty that dustbin. It's not a one and done, unfortunately, but there's truly nothing else out there that competes with this. So, but MCS definitely, we've worked with a lot of patients that have had MCS, and it is definitely recoverable. You can restore your quality of life. You can absolutely, get out of the car and move back into a home. I know that people who suffer from MCS have to basically shield themselves from the world, and I think you deserve a better quality of life. So plan to do this program. I can show you how to do it as inexpensively as possible. But the point is that we're all getting toxic, and the more we get toxic, the more likely we are to become MCS, multiple chemical sensitive. So it's important to do this program and do sauna on a regular basis. It's the healthiest appliance you can own. So the fragrance allergies would go away after you've done this program a few times. All right. So now Anna says that she's doing the protocol, and She takes the niacin, she's at 1,000 milligrams right now, but she says her eyes are getting worse just after the intake, like blurry vision, and she's getting red and itchy eyes. So more than likely what's going on here is that she's still experiencing the flush, and the flush can cause, even the blood vessels in the eyes to get more blood flow. And also, if you're not hydrating appropriately and taking the electrolytes appropriately, then you're probably drying out your body and your eyes are suffering from that. So be sure to take more electrolytes and drink plenty of water. It could be coconut water, yes. Coconut water does have electrolytes in it, but I don't think, and by the way, this is one of her questions too, I don't think the coconut water is sufficient to replenish electrolytes. So continue to use the electrolytes based on what the protocol is calling for. All right, so what's the next question? Oh, she wants to know, she says it's a bit confusing that when is the first day of our detox program? Is it the first day of niacin, or is it the point where we reach 500 milligrams? So that's a good question, because in the original Hubbard method, as soon as you started taking niacin, you would be on your program. The counter starts on that day. Now, for us, now that we have a much better understanding of what's called pharmacokinetics of niacin, the flush and the rebound lipolysis, we're able to now just tell you the 500 milligrams is where most people are going to start triggering the rebound, and therefore that's when you really get the most effective 30-day program. So start at 500 with our program. So the original Hubbard method still uses, the day you start your niacin, and maybe that's where you're getting that information, but we don't do that anymore. The target niacin dose, by the way, is the second point where we know for sure that your body is triggering rebound. And the target niacin dose is 10 milligrams per kilogram. What we have found from the studies is that women tend to be, triggering more around the 500 milligram point, because women on average tend to have less body mass, whereas men would typically have more body mass. So these are averages, not anything to, point to, but I can tell you that at 500 milligrams, most people should be doing a rebound. But at 10 milligrams per kilogram, people like me, who need to take about 900 milligrams, I believe it is, to trigger the rebound, it takes several days to get to that point. But in the meantime, you're still getting a good detox. We just don't know when the rebound actually triggers. So the range is between 500 and whatever 10 milligrams per kilogram is. So let's see if I can continue with her questions. If anybody has a question, please just unmute and throw it out there.
I've got a question, or have you ever dealt with anybody who has EMF sensitivities,
Oh,
the
yeah.
electromagnetic?
Actually, the correct term is EHS, electrohypersensitivity. So yes, absolutely. And in fact, the more I do research on this, the more I'm connecting the dots to heavy metals. The EHS or EMF sensitivity is what we've been finding is more related to heavy metals. And I can actually tell you stories about people who have like gadolinium toxicity, who are more sensitive to Wi-Fi, 5G, and I found out the hard way, or I guess I just found out through the pulsed electromagnetic fields, or PEMF mats, like the Beamer mat, which I don't think they're in production anymore, but the Beamer mats, I had a patient that had apparently had an MRI with gadolinium, and she could feel it. She could feel the Beamer mat. If I lay on it, I don't feel anything, but she could literally feel it, and it was because of the resonance of the metals. So different metals will have different resonant frequencies, and just so happened the PEMF mat was triggering the gadolinium. But this is one of the main concerns people have with 5G is that there's an actual weapon system out there called an active denial system, which is more of a non-lethal crowd control device. Oh, but they could turn up the power for sure and make it probably lethal. But Active denial systems are what they use for crowd control in certain environments, and it has a directed 5G beam that I believe the reason it heats up the body is because it's actually heating up metals that are in the body. And so, if you consider all the ways that we're being poisoned and we're absorbing into our skin and breathing in or getting injected metals, it's easy to see how people can be so, sensitive to the EMFs. And again, with the program like ours, you detox the metals out. You should not have any more EHS or electro hypersensitivity. I certainly don't feel any Wi-Fi or 5G or anything like that. I never felt the PEMF from that either. By the way, the patient that I mentioned, after she went through her 30-day program, could no longer feel the gadolinium. So that was the wake-up call for me, that those people that are in my group that mentioned that they feel Wi-Fi and 5G, who are also gadolinium toxic, they were I totally believe them, not that I didn't already, it's just that I just experienced it. So, but I know
Yeah.
that other metals have resonant frequencies that are probably, it's not just gadolinium. Not everybody's had gadolinium who are EHS. So it's, other metals are probably there, like mercury. So,
Yeah, she can't even, I don't even go in her house and take my cell phone. She unplugs everything in the house, no TV, no radio. She has a cell phone, but she keeps it in the garage.
yeah,
She's so affected by stuff.
exactly. You ought to find out if she's ever had an MRI or if she's ever had a heavy metals test.
I'll ask her.
Yeah. Thanks for the question. Okay, she's got another the other question list I've got here. I do talk about a 14-day, 21-day, and 30-day program, but she's asking, can we do 18 days? And would anything beyond 14 days be beneficial, or does it have to be precise? Okay, so bottom line here is that anybody who's doing this protocol for the first time should plan to do a 30-day out of the gate. Just plan to do 30 days. But if you've done several 30-day programs and you're feeling pretty good and you want to maintain that, you can do 14-day programs or 21-day and just do it for maintenance. That's what I do every 3 years or so, is I'll do a 14-day program. The big difference between a 30-day and a 14-day program is the fact that you don't taper down in the 14 or 21-day programs 3 days prior to ending that, like you would with a 30-day. We taper down on day 28. Just so you know, I typically taper them down by about 0.25% of the last high dose, and then the next day would be 50% off that last high dose, and then finally 75% off that last high dose. And that tapers down the body nicely. But in fact, you're basically in a heightened state of, or I should say, a more elevated value of niacin that your body's gotten used to. And so, like with psych medications, you don't just quit cold turkey. It would be better to allow the body to, come off the niacin, which has gotten so used to. The other reason, by the way, we do a taper down is because there's about 72 hours of a window where toxins get liberated from fat, and they either get dealt with through that 72 hours through sebaceous sweat from sauna or picked up by binders, or they're going to get sequestered somewhere else in the body. But on a 14-day or a 21-day program, you do the full 14 days. Once you hit 500 milligrams, you do the full 14 days, and then you taper down in the 15th, 16th, 17th day. And ideally, you can still do sauna. You really should sauna as much as possible, like once a day if possible. Some people can do, maybe every other day or something like that. But it's important to consider the sauna as a routine. It's very helpful. So. Anyway, that's the same with the 21-day. you would taper down after the 21st day. So, okay. And let's see what else you got here. She's asking if charcoal is very important because there are a lot of pills that you have to take, and she's wondering if that's important. Well, the charcoal is a binder that has specific things that it goes for, and it's one of the more popular binders, but we only use it once per day because of its ability to pick up minerals. And so taking charcoal every day for, let's say, a year is probably not a good idea, because it will be picking up minerals as well as some of the bad stuff. Now, unlike zeolite, which we use on the protocol 3 to 5 times a day, it actually is releasing good minerals that it picks up from the environment that it was created in. So it picked up calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium. And there's a few others, but it picks them up from the environment. And because it has a higher affinity for higher atomic weighted materials like heavy metals, it does through an ion exchange the release of the good minerals for picking up the heavy metals or bad chemicals. So essentially the charcoal is important, but in fact, in all honesty, with all the pills that we're taking, I would remove certain vitamins just because the vitamin dosing is really designed more for drug addiction rehab. And most of us are not doing the program for drug addiction. So the thing is that if you're eating right, you've got a healthy diet, the main thing we need to worry about are the minerals and the electrolytes. And that's why we do the CalMag, and we do electrolytes after each sauna cycle. And we make sure to take the mineral pills. So if there's anything you're going to remove and you eat a good diet, it would be some of the vitamins, but I would continue to take the charcoal. Okay. Anybody else have any questions before I continue with these? All right. She's asking about the lecithin. Basically that they couldn't, where they live in the country they live, they can't get the one that we use. So I'll just let her know that what she's got here looks like she just needs to double the dose to get more towards the 2,400 milligrams. So that's all I need to say about that one. She's talking about she's not seeing weight loss. In fact, she's about 2 kilograms heavier. And it's important to note that this protocol is not going to do any kind of weight control after or during the program. It's more about the weight fluctuates because of a couple of things. You're drinking a lot more fluids probably than you're used to, and maybe you're not sweating them all out. So there's water weight gain that's needing to be considered. And also the fact that when you use the oils on our protocol, it's possible that your body's not breaking them down and using them correctly. So the lecithin, like you're already pointing out, you're taking half of the dose. I would increase your lecithin and get the oils to break down, because lecithin is an emulsifier, and it's also a source of choline, which is very important on the program. But the lecithin needs to be increased first to see if that helps with the weight gain that you're getting, because it's possible you're not breaking down the oils and using them properly. I mean, your body's not using them properly. So, okay. By the way, after a couple of 30-day programs, for sure, weight control comes back. So, don't fret too much if you're gaining weight during the program. It's going to fluctuate no matter what. All right. Then she's talking about her sauna is an actual traditional sauna with the full spectrum addition to it. So it's a dual sauna. Based on what I'm reading here, I just need to say that it looks like the temperatures are fine as long as you're producing a good sweat. So it's a long question. I'm just going to go ahead and just tell her that, yeah, as long as you're producing a good sebaceous sweat, then you should be getting the most effect out of it. Okay, I've got, what is this, 3 more questions? Oh, I've already addressed the coconut water, so we're not going to go there. If our kids do the protocol, who are 9 years old and 11 years old, what would be the length? Now, in this question, I would like to talk to you directly about your kids in this situation, because there are changes to the protocol for sure, but they're going to be different for different cases. So it's not a one size fits all. I can't just answer that, but just know that they're above the 4-year limit. So 4 years or older can do the program, especially if they can follow direction and they are supervised. Okay, well, I guess this is the last question. She's asking about plasma electrolytes. So in the country that they live in, they can't find the ones that we use, especially from our kit. So the ones I recommend, if you can't get the kit, would be pure encapsulations. They've got an electrolyte energy formula, and there's also if you just find good, sodium chloride salt tablets and good potassium. There's also the Highlands brand of bioplasma electrolytes. So the three of those would be suitable replacements for what the kit contains. So I hope that's all the questions you got there that I have been able to answer well. So does anybody else in the group here have a question? It's a small group today, but essentially we're at only got about 15 minutes more. So did pretty well today. I think that one of the most important things, though, that people really need to understand is the question relating back to conditions. Will this protocol help with the conditions? And in reality, it's the basis, really, this protocol is the basis for a good health program or health and wellness program. If you don't get rid of those barriers to good health, like the environmental toxicants that are really not just the heavy metals, the chemicals are bad too. I mean, the glyphosate, for example, that's a big one. And we see a lot of PCBs. We see it's DDE, which is a metabolite of DDT. And even that's been banned for years. There's still plenty of it in the environment that we're getting. But the PCBs are coming from all kinds of sources, including transformers, capacitors, things that there's stuff that gets burnt, those come off of. But the other things that we see are the BPAs and phthalates from plastics, especially the plastic bottles that are squeezy. They have phthalates to make the plastic more malleable. And then if you're drinking alkalinized water from a plastic bottle, that it may not be a good form of plastic. I mean, not that there really is any, but just know that if you're drinking alkalinized water, you're also pulling out antimony. So you're getting the BPAs, the phthalates, and antimony. So just be aware that you really don't want to drink any kind of alkalinized water out of plastic. And I'm not a big fan of that, by the way, of alkalinized water. I believe the body should regulate its own pH, because there's different parts of the body that have different pH requirements. Like your skin is more acidic, your stomach is more acidic, but there are other parts of the body that need to be more on the alkalinity side. So anyway, just know that I'm not a huge fan of the alkaline water anyway. So, all right, any other questions? I probably could just go ahead and bring up that slide again of the different questions and see if we can answer some of the other ones that we had. So let's bring that back. In fact, I'll just read off one of the questions here, or one of the problems. How about the MTHFR gene variation? That looked like it had a pretty high number. So MTHFR is something that with methylation issues can be a problem. Now, they tell you that MTHFR is going to cause you to have problems detoxing. The reality is nobody can detox man-made chemicals or heavy metals that are not able to be broken down by the liver into more water-soluble derivatives. So the MTHFR gene variations have really nothing to do with the kind of toxins that our program deals with. The other thing too is that under methylators may be concerned with niacin being a methyl sponge. So that means that it can really affect the body's ability to handle, like maybe B vitamins, things like that. But the good news is when I mentioned that lecithin is a source of choline, the choline is a methyl donor. So people who have MTHFR gene variations are not really going to have any kind of issue with the protocol based on that. So I've been doing this for many years. My father's been doing it for many more years, and there's never been an issue where somebody with MTHFR or under methylation have had any kind of real problem with this program. So some people say they don't have room for a sauna. The thing is those portables or the do-it-yourself sauna that Matt Justice makes or can show you how to make, those can fit into small spaces and be popped up or taken down in a hurry and put in a closet. So that's not a huge concern, even in small apartments. And most of the smaller ones plug into a standard 110 outlet anyway. So I think some people are saying they can't fit this into their schedule. Let's just briefly touch on that one. So during the rebound setup, there's that first 3 hours where niacin is affecting the body's ability to produce ATP energy because it's measurable in the free fatty acids in the blood concentrations. You see a really marked depressed or inhibited state of the body's ability to produce ATP energy through the lipolysis cycle. And so during that period of time, you may feel fatigued. So what people will do is they'll set their alarm for 4 o'clock or 4:30 in the morning and take their niacin at that time and then sleep through the rest of it through the 3 hours and get up around 7 or 7:30 and then start their daily session. And that's how they fit it into a standard day as an example. But it can be done at night. You just, maybe you don't take your vitamins at bedtime, but you take them with breakfast. But there's a lot of ways that people can put this into their program. And for those of you that really have a problem being able to fit this into a schedule, but do have the ability to use the sauna, I just posted to our Facebook group the niacin flush sauna detox. I already had the 5-day niacin flush sauna detox. That's a primer for building up to doing the full program. So you get up to the 500 milligrams, but doing the flush doing the sauna during the flush. But this new document is more for people who just want to get a better detox than just doing the sauna. As long as you haven't, I should just say, taking niacin at maybe 100 milligrams and flushing and getting into a sauna will give you a far better detox than just a standard sauna or regular sauna. But you take that same dose the next time you go to do it. It doesn't have to be the next day. It can be, every other day. It can be every third day. But or whatever you feel like it. As long as you're still flushing at that dose, continue taking that dose until you stop. And then when you have stopped that flush, move up to 200 milligrams, for example. So you can do those whenever you feel like it. And as long as you're flushing, you're getting a better detox because there's always toxins that are flowing through the bloodstream. There's, whenever your body's producing ATP energy, the free fatty acids, as they are leaving the fat cells, are siphoning off some of the toxins or substances that are stored in the fat. So you're always going to have stuff flowing around in the blood, and the vasodilation is going to push those out to the dermal regions where the sauna can sweat those out. So that's just another way to do things. All right. So with that, if nobody else has any other questions, we can go ahead and wrap this up for the evening. Okay. So I think we'll go ahead and call it a night, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. And
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Okay.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. Thank
Good
you.
evening.
All
Bye.
right, you too. Bye-bye.